classroom host is still present, so let him clarify whether the class will be there or not.
পাচ্ছে না। একটা পিস দিয়েছিস আর কি। আর
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So today we'll be discussing about Guillain-Barré syndrome and head injury. Is the PPT visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll be discussing about Guillain-Barré syndrome.
No, ma'am.
It's
PPT is
not
not
visible.
visible, ma'am.
Not visible.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
I don't know what's the problem then. Now it's visible?
No, ma'am.
No? How many here are saying?
Ma'am, topic are not visible, ma'am.
Now it's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we'll start with Guillain-Barré syndrome. As you know, this is a nervous system disorder. So this is a typical picture of neuron, the nucleus, dendrite, then the action hillock, then cell body, and this is how the myelin sheath covers the dendrite, then node of Ranvier and Schwann-Stills. So this is all these are the action terminal. So this is typical picture of neuron. So Guillain-Barré syndrome is rapidly progressing and a potentially fatal form of acute inflammatory polyneuropathy affecting mostly the peripheral nervous system. As you know, in short form we call it GVS. GVS is disorder in which body's immune system attacks part of the peripheral nervous system. It is an acute, progressive autoimmune inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy of sensory, both motor and sensory nerves are involved in this disorder. That's why there is a symmetrical paralysis, that is weakness occurs, and that progresses to the paralysis. So there may be ascending paralysis, weakness beginning in the feet and hands and migrating towards the trunk. It is the most typical symptom. So etiology, exact cause is still unknown. So idiopathic, but it may be due to the cell-mediated immunologic reaction directed at the peripheral nerves. So this is a autoimmune disorder. Mostly it is believed. In 60% of the cases, lung and digestive tract infection leads to Guillain-Barré syndrome. Then males are 1.5 times more frequently affected than females. Associated microorganisms are Campylobacter jejuni, cytomegalovirus, influenza virus, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, then minor infections such as lungs and GI system, viral infections such as AIDS, herpes simplex, can be a cause. Then swine flu vaccination, general surgery, and epidural anesthesia. Then systematic lupus erythematosus, that is another autoimmune disorder also, can be a cause for Guillain-Barré syndrome. Medications like thrombolytics and immunosuppressives can cause also GBS. So, how do you classify this Guillain-Barré syndrome? One is acute inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy or AIDP, which is the most common form of GBS, and the term is often used synonymously with GBS. It is caused by autoimmune response directed against Schwann cell membranes. Then another one is Miller-Fisher syndrome. It is a rare variant of GBS, accounting for about 5% of GBS cases. It manifests as a descending paralysis, proceeding in the reverse order of the more common form of GBS. So it usually affects the eye muscles first and present with the triad of ophthalmoplegia, ataxia, and areflexia. The ataxia predominantly affects the gait and trunk, with the limbs relatively spread. Then anti-GQA1B antibodies are also present in 95 cases. Oh, sir. Sir, good evening. When I'm in class, I feel submitted. Next is acute motor axonal neuropathy, that is also known as Chinese paralytic syndrome, that attacks most motor nodes of Ranvier and is prevalent in mostly in China, Mexico. It is probably due to an autoimmune response directed against the exoplasm and peripheral nerves. The disease may be seasonal and recovery can be rapid. So, here in anti-JD1 A antibodies are present. Anti-JD3 antibodies are found more frequently and in acute motor axonal neuropathy. Then acute motor sensory axonal neuropathy is similar to acute motor axonal neuropathy but also affects sensory nerves with severe axonal damage. It is probably due to an autoimmune response directed against the exoplasm of peripheral nerves. Recovery is very slow and often incomplete. The- Then acute panautonomic neuropathy is the most rare variant of GBS, which is accompanied by encephalopathy. It is also associated with high mortality rate owing to cardiovascular involvement and associated dysarrhythmias. Frequently occurring symptoms include impaired sweating, lack of tear formation, photophobia, dryness of nasal and oral mucosa, itching and peeling of skin, then nausea, dysphagia, constipation, unrelieved by laxatives, and alternating with diarrhea. Initial non-specific symptoms of lethargy, fatigue, headache, and decreased initiative are followed by autonomic symptoms, including orthostatic lightheadedness, blurring of vision, then abdominal pain, diarrhea, dryness of eyes, and disturbed micturition. The most common symptoms at onset related to orthostatic intolerance as well as gastrointestinal and sub- subdo- subdometer dysfunction. Parasympathetic impairment, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation alias, urinary retention, dilated unreactive pupils, loss of accommodation may also be observed. This is also another variant of Guillain-Barré syndrome, that is Blackford-Stubbs brainstem encephalitis. It is characterized by acute onset of ophthalmalgia, ataxia, disturbances of unconsciousness, hyperreflexia, or Babinski sign. Then the course of the disease can be monophasic or remitting, relapsing, large irregular hyperintense lesions located mainly in the brainstem, especially in the pons, midbrain, and medulla, are described as in the literature because that is mostly affected area. Despite several initial presentations, Blackerstop's brainstem encephalitis usually has a good prognosis. So the magnetic resonance imaging, that is, CT scan plays a critical role. MRI play a critical role in the diagnosis of BBE. A considerable number of BBE patients have associated with axonal Guillain-Barré syndrome, which indicates that the two disorders are closely related. So the pathophysiology is due to etiological factor. It can be uh, bacterial or viral. Other than that, affected infections, which leads to this enter the body by the use of multi-fenestrated cell and other mechanisms. Then that leads to innate immune response results in the uptake of the pathogen by immature antigen presenting cells. Antibodies will be produced, leading to activation of the complement system and phagocytosis of the bacteria. Then immune response directed against the capsular components produce antibody that cross react with myelin. Then lymphocytic infiltration of spinal roots and peripheral nerves, followed by macrophage mediated multifocal stripping of myelin and axonal damage. Defects in the propagation electrical nerve impulses with eventual conduction block. And then sign symptoms occurs. Is the slide visible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Since here is a, storm and rain, no, so there is a network issue. So that's why I'm asking. So the signs and symptoms of GBS begins with tingling and weakness, starting in feet and legs and spreading to upper body and arms. This is a typical picture of GBS. So when patient complains of from this typical picture, you can diagnose Guillain-Barré syndrome. Then patient may complain you prickling pins and needle sensation in fingers, toes, both, weakness or tingling sensations in the legs that spread the upper body. Then unsteady walking or inability to walk will be there. Then difficult with eye movement, facial movement, speaking, chewing or swallowing. There will be marked decrease in muscle strength. Then the dysphonia, dysphagia, and aspiration will be there in myasthenia gravis. Severe pain in lower back. There will be tenderness, difficulty, uncoordinated movement, difficulty with bladder control or intestinal functions, rapid heart rate, palpitations, arrhythmia, that is increased pulse and respiration, rise in blood pressure will be there. There will be anoxia, cyanosis, bowel and bladder incontinence, decreased urine output, absence of cough and shallow reflex. Then there will be patient becomes restless and anxious and tremors, and diaphoresis begins when respiratory failure starts to begin. So before that, patient may complain of difficult breathing, choking on saliva, diminished reflexes, and finally the respiratory failure. In some patients, overdose of anticholinergics can occur. This is manifested as a cholinergic crisis. The major symptoms may include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, blurred vision, pallor, facial muscle twitching, pupillary miosis, and hypotension. So these are all cardiac arrhythmias, severe neuropathic pain. As I said, ki bowel and bladder function problems and incontinence will be there. Patient will develop pressure sores, paralytic alias will be there. Deep brain thrombosis may develop, orthostatic hypotension will be there. So what are the tips or tests you will do? I will diagnose the patient, careful medical history, then observe the signs and symptoms during physical examination. Tap the uh, do the lumbar puncture to exclude all other infections. Then nerve function test also you have to do. So medical management, that is plasmapheresis can be done. Then intravenous immunoglobulin, that is standoglobulin, can be given. Mechanical ventilation, patient may be kept since patient is already in respiratory failure. Analgesics can be given. Then nutritional therapy, that is positioning, tube feeding. Then parenteral nutrition for paralytic alias. Then positioning and nutritional therapy. Nutritional therapy include tube feeding or nutritional parenteral nutrition is because of paralytic alias of the intestine. So nursing diagnosis, first of all, for impaired spontaneous ventilation related to progression of disease process resulting in respiratory muscle paralysis, risk for aspiration related to dysphagia, acute pain related paresthesia, muscle aches, cramps, then impaired verbal communication related to intubation, then self-care deficit. Uh, First of all, before going to diagnosis, you have to do the nursing assessment. So first of all, you have to uh, collect information about the initial presentation so that you will confirm that this is a case of GBS. Baseline testing of cranial nerves you have to do. So patient may have general muscle strength whether patient has or not, functional abilities. See for the gag reflex and cough reflex. Test the voice quality of the patient. Observe the swallowing ability of the patient. Then you will go for tube feeding, as I said, parenteral fluid you have to give. Then detect whether the patient is has any features of respiratory failure. Then measure the force vital capacity, ensure accuracy and consistency, make the patient to sit upright, prevent leakage around the mouthpiece. Then next is other pulmonary assessment you have to do like a test for the tidal volume and lung function test. Then every day you have to do the assessment for 2 to 4 hours. Then psychosocial assessment also you have to do. And, ask for the patient's communication skill, etc. So you have to do the test as I said earlier in the diagnosis before reaching to the nursing assessment. You have to do the hydrophonium test, that is tensilon. It is a pharmacologic agent that increases neurotransmission. The physician assesses the strength of the cranial muscles by giving that tensilon. So tensilon 2 mg is injected as a test dose. If this is tolerated, 8 mg is injected after 30 seconds. This is for myasthenia gravis. So you have to, whether it is a case of myasthenia gravis or GBS, you have to exclude by doing this test. So the nursing management, first of all, uh, as we discussed the diagnosis, there will be impaired spontaneous ventilation related to progression of disease. So you have to take all measures to establish the respiration of the patient. We have already discussed those interventions in the respiratory disorders. Then risk for aspiration related to dysphagia. So you have to turn and reposition the patient and encourage coughing and deep breathing. If there is a respiratory failure that is imminent, establish an emergency airway with an endotracheal tube. So tracheostomy can be done. Give meticulous skin care to prevent pressure sores and contractures. Then perform passive range of motion exercise with the patient's pain limits. To prevent aspiration, test the gag reflex and elevate the head of the bed before giving the patient anything to eat. Tensilon test will be done only in myasthenia gravis. So in case of Guillain-Barré syndrome, you have to give supportive care and ventilatory support during the acute phase. So exchange of plasma product, as I said, you will give, and intravenous immunoglobulin also you have discussed. Then steroids also can be given. And supportive therapies like cardiac monitoring, hemodynamic monitoring, and mechanical ventilation and respiratory support by intubation or tracheostomy can be done. Then ABG, gas analysis, chest physiotherapy, special eye care should be taken, maintenance of nutrition and range of motion exercise. All these measures you have to take. So to maintain the airway patency, as I said, since the patient may lose the swallowing uh, reflex and all, so airway patency you have to assess breath sounds, oxygen saturation, ABG analysis. Then you have to do the suctioning. Already all these measures I think we have already discussed. If there will be a patient with impaired respiratory function, uh, will happen, what are the measures will take, we have already discussed. So besides, since the patient is having muscle weakness, so you have to assess the level of consciousness of the patient. Then for nursing care you have to take for urinary bowel and incontinence. Then check for facial palsy, reflexes and all other dysphasias. So to prevent thrombophlebitis, apply anti-embolism stockings or compression boots and give prophylactic anticoagulants as ordered. So 4 hourly you have to make the patient wear these stockings. If the patient has facial paralysis, give eye and mouth care every 4 hours also. Offer bedpan every 3 to 4 hours to monitor intake and output regularly. To prevent or relieve constipation, offer prune juice and high bulk diet. So administer medications as ordered. Analgesic may be prescribed to relieve muscle sickness and spasm. Then provide diversions for the patient, um, such as televisions, family visits, and listening to the radio. All these things can be allowed. Then provide emotional support to the patient and his family. Provide respiratory treatments. Monitor the cardiac status all the time. Institute non-pharmacological pain control measures like massaging, relaxation, use of ice, heat, and distractions. Impaired physical mobility or self-care deficit related to weakness and paralysis and ataxia will be there. So you have to assess the client's motor function every 2 to 4 hourly. Encourage to perform range of motion exercises. Then use assistive devices for ambulation. Monitor the client's tolerance for activity and administer prescribed anticoagulant therapy for preventing DVS, deep vein thrombosis. Then assess the skin for evidence of pressure ulcers. Encourage to change position every 2 hourly. Use anti-embolism stockings, already we have discussed, or sequential compression stockings. Provide assistance in activities of daily living. Include patient and family in each aspect of care. Cleanse eyes and use eye shield if appropriate. Then imbalanced nutrition, that is less than the body requirement related to difficulty chewing, dysphagia or anxiety. So assess the ability to swallow, assist with feeding, insert nasogastric tube if needed, check weight every week, monitor serum albumin weekly, administer balanced diet, then oral hygiene to be maintained every 2 hourly. Patient had another nursing diagnosis like impaired verbal communication related to intubation or paralysis of the muscles required for speech. So develop alternative methods of communication. Give something in patient to write and communicate to you. So give pen and paper to patient. Become familiar with the client mode of communication so that its needs are identified. Then teach patient to speak in low, unhurried manner so that the words can be comprehensible. Continue to use sense of touch and other nonverbal methods of communication. The next is anxiety related to altered sensory and motor function. So, to reduce anxiety, monitor patient's reaction towards the illness and treatment. Provide clear and honest explanation about the disease condition and the treatment pattern. Teach relaxation technique to the patients. Teach the essential aspects of care and involve the patient to perform them. Then also you have to allow the friends and family members to visit to the patient so that this patient will feel relaxed. So besides all these measures, you have to take appropriate interventions to prevent infection, to promote comfort and sleep, and to prevent complications of bed rest necessary when the patient is in confined to the bed. The recovery period often lasts several weeks to months or years. So you have to give counseling to the patient. If you those who are having axonal destruction, they may have permanent neurological deficit. Other than that, majority of patients affected with GBS have a complete functional recovery. So thank you all. This is all about the GBS. We'll be discussing about the head injury. Is my voice audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Because here we have thunderstorm, heavy rain. So whether my voice is audible to all of you, I'm just asking in between.
Actually,
So we'll go to the next slide of head injury. So welcome to the topic of head injury. That is the basic anatomy of this head. See the skull, the meninges which covers the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. Then brain tissue, TSF, and blood. Dura mater, as you know, all of you, outer layer lining skull. Arachnoid matter contains blood vessels, and between the arachnoid and pia mater, that is subarachnoid space, that is filled with CSF, and pia mater which covers the brain. This is what all the layers of meninges. See the skin, periosteum, below to that, then bone, then dura mater. So this is what all the organs of brain, cerebral hemisphere. So mostly visual, that is first, second, third cranial area. Then primary, so anesthetic area. Then primary motor area, primary premotor area, frontal eye field area, then Broca's area, primary auditory area, Wernicke's area. All these are specified. See the dura mater. venous sinuses, arachnoid matter, and pia matter. The covering is just typically it has been shown, and the CSF fluid, then the gray matter, then white matter. So these are the this is the ventricles. So the intracranial volume, the brain matter, 10%, 80% is the brain matter, 10% will be the blood, and 10% CSF. The pressure of the brain contains intracranial pressure. The pressure of the brain contains within the skull is intracranial pressure. The pressure of the blood flowing through the brain is referred as the cerebral perfusion pressure. The pressure of the blood in the body is the mean arterial pressure, and cerebral perfusion pressure can be determined by the formula like mean arterial pressure minus intracranial pressure. So this is what the normal ICP is maintained: intracranial pressure, CSF, brain, then arterial and venous pressure. So head injury epidemiology. So it is this is number one killer in trauma. Most people they die because of head injury. 25% all trauma deaths occurs. Then 50% of all deaths from motor vehicle MVC. Then 2 lakh people every year in the world live with a disability caused by these injuries.
Ma'am, skin not visible, ma'am.
Hello,
Skin not visible.
not audible.
नहीं नहीं स्किन जो
It is not visible, ma'am.
स्किन
Not
जो है
audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Hello.
slides are not visible.
What will do? Will stop for some time.
Ma'am, light is not visible.
Hello. Am I
मैम
audible to all of you?
ऑडिबल टू मैम बट स्लाइड जो है जो स्किन का जो स्लाइड आप मतलब हम लोग देख रहे हैं वो नहीं दिख रहा है मैम
Pardon.
स्किन नॉट विजिबल मैम
Not audible.
ऑडिबल बट स्किन नॉट विजिबल
मैम अभी शेयर नहीं कर रही है स्क्रीन, इसलिए नहीं आ रहा है।
Your voice is not audible to me. I am not able to listen. Right in chat box. Write in chat box what you want to write. Is my voice audible to all of you, or will stop for some time?
No, ma'am, you are audible.
Now it's audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
मैम हम लोग सुन पा रहे हैं लेकिन जो स्किन आप शेयर करते हैं वो हम लोग नहीं देख पा रहे हैं मैम
अच्छा, वो तो स्क्रीन में शेयर की थी, क्यों नहीं देख पा रहे हो? You maybe some problem is there.
पहले जब आपने स्टार्ट किया तब दिखा रहे थे लेकिन अभी 5 मिनट
Wait,
से
wait,
10
I
मिनट्स
need
हो
to
गया
show.
नहीं हाँ यस यस ओके मैम
So it has been seen that head injury, Indian Head Injury Foundation has been estimated that yearly 1 lakh lives lost with 1 million suffering from severe head injury. 1 out of 6 trauma victim dies in India. In USA the figure is 1 out of 200. So here it is very high because we people never care while doing traveling. So they never use helmet and all. So we don't follow the traffic rule. That's why the incident is more high in India than in comparison to other developed countries. Road traffic accidents most common cause followed by falls and assault. So motorcycles, pedestrians most common victims in RTS for having head injuries. Now it is visible to all of you, no? PPT.
Yes, ma'am.
So it has been said India will have the highest number of automobiles on the planet, overtaking USA by 2050. So the head injury will also incidence will be more. So any injury, degree of injury to the head ranging from the scalp laceration to loss of consciousness to focal neurological deficit is known as head injury. A head injury is any trauma to the scalp, skull or brain. Then traumatic brain injury is more specific to a problem with the brain that leads to some sort of permanent deficit. Traumatic brain injury is a non-degenerative, non-congenital insult to the brain from an external mechanical force, that is maybe due to fall or road traffic accident, possibly leading to permanent or temporary impairment of cognitive, physical, and psychosocial function with an associated diminished or altered state of consciousness. So the causes are falls, sports injury, or assault. Non-traumatic brain injury that can cause due to stroke, near drowning, then aneurysm or tumor, or any infectious disease that affects to the brain. So non-traumatic brain injury often referred to as an acquired brain injury. A non-traumatic brain injury causes damage to the brain by internal factors such as a lack of oxygen, exposure to toxins, pressure from tumor, etc. So the etiology, as I said, can be RTA, fall, sports injury, assault, or gunshot wounds. Causes of secondary head injury. These are causes that is non-traumatic hypoxia, hypotension less than 90 mm of Hg, raised intracranial pressure more than 20 mm of Hg, pyrexia, low cerebral perfusion pressure that is less than 65 mm of Hg, or seizure, continuous seizure, then metabolic disturbances. So the Monroe Kelly doctrine says that the total volume of intracranial contents remain constant. If we classify head injury on mechanism, morphology, and severity, mechanical it can be blunt injury or penetrating injury if it is with gunshot or sharp instrument. Blunt injury if with RTA, road traffic accident, maybe due to high velocity or low velocity. Morphology if there is a skull fracture, scalp injury, or intracranial injury. The skull fracture, maybe the base of skull fracture will be there, or vault fracture. Intracranial injury, maybe focal lesions, extradural hematoma. There may be subdural hematoma, subarachnoid hematoma, intracranial hematoma, and diffuse lesions like contusions may be there, DII may be there. So As per the severity of a head injury, it can be classified minor head injury, mild head injury, moderate head injury, severe head injury. Minor head injury, जिसका GCS with no loss of consciousness will be 15. Mild head injury, GCS 14 or 15 with loss of consciousness. Moderate head injury from GCS 9 to 13, and severe head injury is 3 to 8. So beyond 9, it is unreversible. Scalp injury, there can be simple sepal hematoma or scalp laceration. Skull fractures can be linear, stellate, depressed or non-depressed injury will be there. Open or closed wound may be there. This is a typical picture of bolt injury. Then basilar skull fractures, usually diagnosed on CT imaging or on clinical evidences. Then clinical signs include battle signs, raccoon eyes, and CSF leak. So these basilar skull fractures may or may not be associated with 7th and 8th cranial nerve injury. This is typical picture of head injury with raccoon eyes. In the middle one you see, and the battle signs. The left side picture you see, and head injury with CSF rhinorrhea. The right side picture, you can see leakage of CSF chronos. So coming to the intracranial lesions, there will be epidural hematoma. So collection of blood and clot, bilateral dura mater and bones of the skull. Then source can be medial meningeal artery or dural venous cyanosis. Clinical features, there will be brief loss of consciousness, headache, drowsiness, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, and rapid clinical deterioration. Classical presentation seen only in one-third cases. On CT scan, lentiform hyperdense lesions between skull and brain. Overall mortality rate 18% in all cases, but only 2% in isolated epidural hematoma. Next is acute subdural hematoma. Then that accumulates in space between dura and arachnoid mater. Then disruption of cortical vessels. Then significant primary injury will be there. Patients present with impaired conscious level from time of injury. Then CT scan, there will be hyperdense concave lesions spreading across brain. Then midline shift that is disproportionate to size of lesion, mortality rate as high as 40% in some series. Subarachnoid hemorrhage, trauma is most common cause, followed by aneurysms. Rarely, aneurysmal hemorrhage immediately precedes trauma. Most can be managed conservatively. Then chronic subdural hemorrhage usually occurs in elderly on anticoagulant or antiplatelet agents. History of minor head injury in weeks or months prior to presentation will be there. Small breathing veins tear and cause small clinically silent acute subdural hematoma. When hematoma breaks down and increases in size, mass effect is produced. Clinical features can be headache, cognitive impairment, focal neurological deficit, and seizures. CT scan, acute blood, and that is hypodense, subacute blood, that is 10 to 14 days isodense, and chronic blood, that is more than 2 weeks hypodense. Chronic subdural hematoma will more recent hemorrhage in dependent areas, that is mostly posterior areas. Treatment is bowel evacuation rather than craniotomy. Cerebral contusions, cup and countercup injuries most commonly affecting in frontal fossa and temporal lobes. CT appears heterogeneous with mixed areas of high and low density, rarely require immediate surgery. Observation, patient may be kept for observation 48 to 72 hours. If there will be concussion, there will be temporary and brief interruption of neurological function after minor and head injury due to shearing and stretching of white matter fibers at the time of impact or temporary neural dysfunction. Patient may complain of headache, confusion, amnesia. CT MRI cannot detect this concussion. There are 3 grades of concussion as per the Colorado grading. Grade 1 is symptoms for 15 minutes, no LOC, only confusion will be there. Grade 2, symptoms for more than 15 minutes, no LOC, amnesia will be there. Grade 3, patient will have level of consciousness present. That means there will be some loss of consciousness may be there. Medical opinion should be sought in grade 2 and 3. Then diffuse axonal injuries, disruption of axons in white matter and brainstem. Injuries can occur immediately and is irreversible. Usually have a persistent sequel, that is cognitive impairment and spasticity will be there. CT usually normal. MRI with multiple diffuse abnormalities. Hemorrhagic spots classically seen over corpus callosum or dorsolateral midbrain. So pathophysiology is primary brain injury occurs at the time of impact, mechanical damage which is irreversible that causes permanent mechanical cellular disruption and microvascular injuries which include cerebral contusion, diffuse axonal injuries and cerebral lacerations. That can lead to secondary brain injury. It occurs at some time after the moment of impact, often preventable. Prevention of secondary brain injury results in improved neurological outcome after head injury, and it may make the difference between independent survival and dependent. So, survival or death. So, brain suffers from any traumatic injury leads to brain swelling or bleeding, increases intracranial volume. So, rigid cranium allows no room for expansion of content. So, intracranial pressure increases. Pressure leads to on blood vessels within the brain, causes blood flow to the brain slowly. Then that leads to cerebral hypoxia and ischemia. which leads to intracranial pressure continues to rise, brain may herniate, cerebral blood flow decreases. So this is very important. When there is head injury, you have to reduce the intracranial pressure. So that is what how you'll maintain what is the cause and definition of raised intracranial pressure. After this, we will be learning separately. Headache due to direct trauma and are increasing, that is intracranial pressure. Patient may have disorientation or cognitive changes. There may be changes in speech, changes in motor movements. Patient may complain of weakness or numbness in the arms or legs. Nausea, vomiting due to increased intracranial pressure will be there. Unequal pupil size, that is important to determine if due to neurological change or not. A diminished or absent pupil reaction due to neurologic compromise. Decreased level of consciousness or loss of consciousness will be there. Amnesia may be there. Drainage of bloody or clear fluids from ears or changes in behavior such as irritability or confusion, seizures will be there. So diagnostic measures, history collection, physical examination, then do CBC, ABG analysis will be there, X-ray, ultrasound imaging, which includes computerized tomography, magnetic MRI, then PET, electroencephalography, then nerve conduction velocity, then ENG also, electron uh, electronystagmography. How will approach a patient with head injury? So history, first you have to collect how the patient had head injury, then initial assessment, primary survey and secondary survey. Also history of mechanical injury, loss of consciousness or amnesia, level of consciousness. That means how the patient was received at the immediate vicinity, at scene how the patient was, then evidence of seizure throughout the transport or at the time of during, I mean at the immediate vicinity, whether the patient had or not, then probable hypoxia or hypotension, whether the patient is having pre-existing medical condition, then you have to take a history of drugs and alcohol. So all of you are aware of this GCS. I am not going to details of this. These three parameters are tested or examined under GCS. That is eye opening, verbal response, and motor response. So when eye opening is spontaneous, the score you have to give 4. When the patient responds to verbal command, a score will be 3. When the patient responds to any stimulus or pain, the response score will be 2. When there will be no response for any verbal command or pain or to spontaneity, you will give score 1. Then for patient's verbal response, if the patient is oriented and converses, give 5, score highest score. Then disoriented and converses, that is 4. If the patient is only saying inappropriate words, give score 3. If the words are incomprehensible sounds only heard from the patient, give score 2. If no verbal response, give score 1. So lowest is 1. Almost for in GCS, the highest score is 15 and lowest is 3. So in motor response, if the patient obeys verbal commands, give score 6. Then if the patient responds to localizes pain, then give 5. Then if the patient withdraws from pain, shows flexion, then you have to give score 4. Abnormal flexion in response to pain, that is decorticate rigidity, if it is there, then you have to give score 3. If extension in response to pain, that is a decerebrate rigidity, if that is there, you have to give score 2, and if no response, give score 1. So in the primary survey, this is the early stage trials mostly done by paramedics. Follow CABDE. C stands for circulation with hemorrhage control. So first of all, start the IV line, maintain the circulation. Then next, airway maintenance and spine protection you will see. Then spine alignment you will check. Then B stands for breathing and ventilation. D stands for any disability or neurological status. Just check. E stands for exposure. Completely undress the patient and assess for other injuries to exclude. So this is what the circulation need to be maintained. Start IV line. Then isolated intracranial injuries don't cause hypertension. So look for the hypotension if the patient has airway maintenance with the cervical spine protection. Then breathing and ventilation, check the intubation precautions if it is necessary. You have to give the intubation. So disability health check from the pupillary size and reaction, then GCS from motor function, then injury level, then assessment of findings from the eyes if it is constricted, narcotics people constricted, then or dilated, then if dilated then maybe midbrain ICP. Constricted it is because of narcotics, use of narcotics can be there. Then unilateral dilatation, that means pressure on head intracranial nerve. If it is fixed and dilated, there will be herniation of the hindbrain. Secondary survey, ample history, which they take. Then examination of head to toe, Glasgow Coma Scale examination. Then detailed neurological examination can be done. What is ample history? So this acronym of ample refers to A stands for allergy to any drugs, food, insects. Then M stands for medication, that is prescribed or non-prescribed drugs. P stands for any past medical or surgical history. Then L stands for last intake and output. E stands for event leading to the crisis. I mean, during the event of this head injury, how was the patient? The person who received the patient, he will give the data, what the patient's status during the vicinity. So as I said, due to severity of head injury, head injury can be classified as minor head injury if the full GCS 15 is there with no loss of consciousness. Mild head injury, if it will be 14 or 15 with LOC, loss of consciousness. Then moderate injury, head injury, GCS 9 to 13, severe head injury, GCS 3 to 8. Management of mild head injury when it is only GCS 14 15. Then history, general examination you do, limited to neurological examination. C-spine and other X-rays you have to take. CT scan can be taken, discharge with advice to the patient. Then criteria for admission to the in the ward. If no CT scanner is available, abnormal CT, if there is a abnormal CT scan findings, then all penetrating injury, head injuries will be admitted. All skull fractures will be admitted. If CSF leak is there, will be admitted. Deteriorating level of consciousness will be admitted. Moderate to severe headache patients will be admitted. Significant alcohol and drug intoxication patients will be admitted. Significant associated injuries will be admitted. So, to whom will take for CT scan if there is a skull fracture, deteriorating GCS, even there is no visible fracture, neurological deficit, amnesia, headache, seizure. Patient can be discharged if the following criteria are met before discharge: GCS 15 out of 15, no focal neurological deficit, accompanied by responsible adult, verbal and written advice can be given. Management of moderate head injury GCS when GCS is 9 to 12 and with loss of consciousness. Initial examination will be done. CT scan of brain obtained in all cases. Admission for observation. Then after admission, what you will do? Do the frequent neurological checks. If it is improved, then discharge and do the follow-up. If it is not improved, that means neurological checks are deteriorates. Then repeat the CT scan. Manage as per severe head injury protocol. Management of severe head injury, that is 3 to 8 GCS and loss of consciousness. Primary survey and registration will be done. Secondary survey and ample history, as well as I said. Admit to facility neurological care. Then neurologic re-evaluation, eye opening, motor response, verbal response, and pupillary reaction need to be checked. CT scan only after hemodynamic stabilization. Medical therapy for raised ICP. Immediate neurosurgeon opinion will be taken up for surgery. If needed, surgical management will be given. Medical therapies for head injury, head and elevation will be 30-degree. Intravenous fluid should be given. Maintain normovolemia. Hypotonic glucose containing fluid should not be used. Serum sodium levels monitored daily. Mannitol is used for reducing the raised intracranial pressure. So 0.25 to 1 gram per kg IV will be administered over a period of 2 to 6 hours. Then osmotic agent, that is this intracranial pressures. Then the brain metabolism will be monitored. Then oxygen carrying capacity will be seen. Then diuretic effect will be observed. That means intake output chart will be maintained. So it expands also volume. Furosemide will be given to reduce in ICT in conjunction with mannitol. Then dose will be given 0.3 to 0.5 mg per kg IV. Never used in hypovolemia case. Hypertonic saline. Then improve central pressure and brain tissue oxygen levels. Decrease ICP by 35%. 8 to 10 mm of Hg. Then mean arterial pressure remains stable. Greatest benefit in those with higher intracranial pressure and lower CPP. Repeated doses were not associated with rebound, hypovolemia, or hypertension. Then 30 ml of 23.4% every 15 minutes will be given. Then barbiturates. It is not used in presence of hypertension or hypovolemia. In case of effective in reducing ICP, then anticonvulsant like phenytoin will be given, eptoin to prevent seizures. Loading days 18 to 20 mg per kg. Maintenance dose 100 milligram 8 hourly. Surgical management for specific head injuries. So various guidelines are followed. Guidelines for surgical management of traumatic brain injury. So indication of surgical decompression. The GCS score decreases by 2 or more points between the time of injury and hospital evaluation. The patient presents with fixed and dilated pupil. So what will be done in the surgical management? Scalp wounds cleaning and debridement will be done. Bore hole craniotomy will be done. Bone flap is temporarily removed from the skull to assess the brain. Then craniectomy, in which the skull flap is not immediately replaced, allowing the brain to swell, thus reducing intracranial pressure. Cranioplasty, surgical repair of a defect bone. So these are the instrument, that is Burrell craniotomy done, penetrator, Burrell bit, scalpel, bone ranger. A burrow is placed on the side of the dilating pupil. A burrow is a small hole made in the skull with surgical drill. The burrow can be made to pass drainage catheters that allow for cerebrospinal fluid drainage or evacuation of chronic accumulated blood. Decompressive craniectomy, that is controversial, used in patients without focal lesion and raised intracranial pressure who are refractory to maximum medical management. The operation involves removing a large section of skull and opening the dura, allowing the swollen brain to expand underneath the scalp. The bone flap is stored and can be replaced 3 to 6 months later when the patient has made a good neurological recovery and the brain swelling has been resolved. Long-term sequel of head injury, there will be neurorehabilitation, neuropsychology. After minor head injuries such as headache, dizziness, impaired short-term memory will be there, and the concentration. Impaired concentration also will be there. Seizures, prophylactic anticonvulsant can prevent long-term seizures. Then delayed CSF leak, CT cystoscopy or CT isotope studies can be done. Seizure disorders, 2% yearly post-traumatic incidence will be seen, increase to 30% in children, alcoholics, and with intracranial hematoma. Prophylactic antiepileptic reduce yearly occurrence, and then it is not supported by literature. In case of concussion, there will be brief loss of consciousness, dizziness will be there, photophobia, vertigo, headache, cognitive memory dysfunction may be there, nausea, vomiting may be there. So coming to the initial management, in case of severe head injury, when GCS is 8 or less, first of all, ATLS trauma evaluation will be done. Then endotracheal intubation, fluid resuscitation, ventilation will be maintained, oxygenation will be given, sedation will be given. Then pharmacologic paralysis, that is due to sedation, which leads to check for herniation or deterioration if that is there. Then mannitol and hyperventilation will be done. Then CT scan again. If a surgical lesion is there, yes, go for operation. If no surgical lesion, patient will be treated under ICU and then monitor ICP, treat intracranial hypertension. So rehabilitation, there may be neurological deficit after this head injury. So rehabilitation includes cognitive rehabilitation therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, then mental rehabilitation, physical exercise, and occupational therapy. Nursing management, first diagnosis is ineffective airway clearance, related to airway inflammation evidenced by dyspnea and retained secretion. So you have to monitor the under this diagnosis. Nursing intervention can be assess the airway, monitor the vitals, including the rate, rhythm, depth of respiration. Keep the patient in Fowler's position. Administer oxygen according to physician's prescription. Administer antibiotic according to doctor's order. So outcome is the patient may be able to maintain patent airway. The rate rhythm of respiration may become normal. Next is altered body temperature related to respiratory infection as evidenced by raise in patient body temperature. So nursing intervention will be remove all extra clothing, open all the doors and windows, switch on the fan, monitor the temperature, do the cold sponging, and pharmacological intervention can be given as per doctor's advice. Provide hypothermia blanket, administer antipyretics, the body maintain normal temperature. Then third diagnosis, nursing diagnosis is altered skin integrity related to prolonged bed rest as evidenced by marked reddish brown coloration of skin. The nursing interventions will be assess the skin frequently, count the patient in regular interval, provide water or air mattress, provide passive exercise, provide back care, maintain personal hygiene, keep the client in a comfortable position. Then give extra pillow to the patient to avoid frictions in between the skin areas. So outcome will be skin integrity can be maintained. So this is all about the head injury management. We'll go specifically for this myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia crisis are similar like Guillain-Barré syndrome. Myasthenia means muscle weakness. Myasthenia gravis is a disease caused by some defects at the neuromuscular junction. So junction where muscles and nerve meet together. So myasthenia gravis is produced by a defect in the transmission of nerve impulse at the neuromuscular junction. So it affects both men and women of all age groups. But women between 20 to 30 years and men between 60 to 70 years are more affected. Myasthenia crisis is defined as severe worsening of myasthenia gravis. It is an emergency condition characterized by severe generalized muscle weakness and respiratory failure due to various precipitating factors like emotional stress, upper respiratory tract infection, and surgery obstruction due to over or under medication with anticholinergic drugs. Then coming to the neuromuscular junction is a synapse that transmits nerve impulse from the nerve terminal to the motor end plate on the muscle. Then acetylcholine,
मैम
that is
स्लाइड
a
नहीं दिख रहा है.
neurotransmitter which is synthesized and stored in a synaptic vesicle in the motor nerve terminal. So that is acetylcholine is known as ACH. ACH plays a vital role in the impulse transmission. So continuous binding of ACH to the receptor site is required to
Excuse
normal
me, ma'am.
muscular contraction. So
Is
what are
there
the
any slides
etiological factors for
regarding
myasthenia
this?
crisis? Myasthenia crisis can occur. Myasthenia gravis, it is a autoimmune disorder.
मैम आपकी
The
स्लाइड नहीं दिख रही है
autoantibodies attack
माइस्थीनिया ग्रेविस वाली.
acetylcholine receptors on the motor end plate. It is not a hereditary condition, but
Ma'am,
inherited.
Ma'am,
Pardon?
ma'am, your slide is not visible, ma'am.
Myasthenia gravis slide.
Yes,
That is
ma'am.
not share. I am trying to share, but it is not visible. I am not able to do that. Okay. So see, it is visible to Ando. I don't want. I don't know why it is not shared. So, what are the clinical manifestation of myasthenia crisis? One is a marked decrease of muscle strength. There will be dysphonia, dysphagia, and aspiration will be there. Weakness progresses to affect the respiratory muscles, leading to the respiratory insufficiency. Patient becomes restless and anxious, and tremors and diaphoresis begins with respiratory failure. Then increased pulse and respiration will be there, raise in blood pressure, anoxia will be there, cyanosis will be there, then bowel and bladder incontinence will be there, decreased urine output, then absence of cough and cellular reflex. It's almost similar to, many pictures are similar to GBS. Then how will do the assessment, nursing assessment or diagnostic test for myasthenia crisis patient. First of all, do the baseline testing of cranial nerves, like including respiratory function, labored respiration, see the nasal flaring, present or not, then severe muscular weakness, uh, all the muscles contraction, relaxation, you can ask the patient. General muscle strength you can assess, functional abilities you can assess, check for gag reflex and cough reflex, then check for voice quality, then observe if the patient is able to swallow or not, then detect symptoms signs of respiratory failure. Measured all these tidal volume, post vital capacity to assess the respiratory status, and then to ensure accuracy and consistency, make the patient to sit in upright, then see that any leakage around the mouthpiece, continuously or not, then make assessment every 2 hourly. Even psychosocial assessment you have to include. Then explain about the patient regarding the illness and alleviate their anxiety. Then establish a good communication skill with the patient and his family members. As I said that what diagnostic test you will do for myasthenia gravis, I had already told you to do the tensilon test, that is edrophonium test. You have to give tensilon and see that whether the muscle strength is improved or not. So this tensilon test has one disadvantage. It can cause ventricular fibrillation and cardiac arrest, even rarely. So atropine sulfate must be kept ready immediately to be given. Then electromyography you have to do. It is recording of muscle activity at rest during voluntary movement and with electric stimulation by inserting small needle electrodes into the muscles. So anticholinesterase medication should be stopped 6 to 24 hours before testing this electron myography. Then antibody titer you have to test for acetylcholinesterase. This in the blood, this acetylcholinesterase titer will be elevated for patient with myasthenia gravis. That you have to check. Then MRI you have to do for the detection of thymus gland enlargement. So how will do the management of myasthenia crisis? Prompt recognition of the condition is important. Manage the airway, intubate the patient and connect the patient to mechanical ventilator as there will be weakness of the muscles. So anticholinestase drugs, that is pyridostigmine, neostigmine can be withdrawn for 48 to 70 hours because they increase the respiratory secretions and are usually ineffective for the first few days. Then you have to give oral dose of 60 milligram pyridostigmine or 15 milligram neostigmine may be started. In case of crisis condition, myasthenia crisis condition, you have to give it through nasogastric tube. Then you have to do the plasmapheresis management. So plasmapheresis is a method where plasma is separated from the whole blood and discarded through a machine, and RBC are resuspended in normal saline and give back to the patient to prevent anemia. So patient should be monitored, hypotension or electrolyte depletion. Then immunosuppression you have to assess. Then immunosuppression you have to do because this is autoimmune disorder. So gives corticosteroid like prednisolone you have to give 15 to 100 milligram daily and gradually. Then gradually you have to reduce 15 to 100 gram daily you have to start and gradually you have to taper. Then chemotherapeutic agents such as azathioprine or cyclophosphamide you have to give. Intravenous administration of immunoglobulin you have to give. If it is required, thymectomy you have to done. That is thymus gland. Because of thymus gland is responsible for producing B lymphocytes. So you have to be if it is enlarged and in case if it is required, thymectomy may be done. Then cardiac monitoring and pulse oximetry to monitor the unstable patients continuously you have to do. Nursing management, as I said, the same maintaining adequate respiratory functions. Then you have to check for the skin integrity. Frequent assessment of respiratory status is essential. Then rate of respiration, depth of respiration, breathlessness, respiratory weakness, pulse oximetry, ABG analysis. Then assess for the muscle strength, hand strength, leg movement, ability to hold the head up, ocular palsy you have to check, ptosis, dilopia, then weak voice, dysphagia, impaired swallowing, drooling, all these you have to check. Then continuous salivation means drooling, that means the muscle, oral cavity musculature is functioning or not, vital signs, nutritional status, ability to perform self-care. Then psychological aspect like confusion, agitation or depression you have to assess. Then assess other precipitating factors also. Nursing diagnosis, ineffective airway clearance related to weak cough reflex. I have already said all these measures of suctioning, then administering oxygen, then turning the patient's face to a side. So all the salivation or secretion will drool out. Then ineffective breathing pattern related to respiratory muscle weakness. You have to see that the patient is able to administer oxygen, but see that patient is able to do that or other measures like the tray must be kept ready for endotracheal intubation, and the or tray must be kept ready for that is tracheostomy. Then check the patient's impaired physical mobility with another related to limb weakness diagnosis. So all ROM exercise you have to do for the patient. Then you have to check for the skin integrity. So usually you have to make the patient to wear stockings, all that. Then self-care deficit related to neuromuscular weaknesses. So you have to compensate all the needs of the patient to do the ideal activities of daily living. Then imbalanced nutrition less than the body requirement related to impaired swallowing. So you have to maintain the mm, nutrition through TPN, total parental nutrition you need to give, or you have to give the nasogastric feeding also. Then impaired verbal communication. Impaired verbal communication. For that you have to give the alternative mode of communication. You will start with the patient, give pen and paper so that the patient will be able to write, or just try to non-verbal gestures, postures, uh, to try to be acquainted with those gestures so that you can know the patient's problem. Then a patient may be risk for infection. So to avoid the risk for infection, you have to again maintain hand hygiene, wear all PPE, maintain the biomedical waste management, then restrict the visitors, etc. Then knowledge deficit related to therapeutic regimen and precipitating factors. You have to always explore any queries the patient and the family members they have. Then share all health information related to the treatment pattern and the prognosis of the disease condition. So you have to maintain in case the patient is very, even after patient may need, if the impaired breathing pattern is there, patient may need a ventilator, mechanical ventilator. So you take care of the patient under the uh, ventilator. So as you know, there will be you have to give focus for respiratory management. If the patient in crisis, patient may be intubated and connected to the mechanical ventilator, or may be a need for performing tracheostomy. So you ensure clear and patent airway. See the appropriate ventilator parameters are maintained. Suctioning as needed you have to do. Monitor oxygen saturation. Hyperoxygenated with 100% oxygen before and after suctioning. Keep emergency drugs and suction equipment at the bedside. Check the position of the endotracheal tube every shift. Then maintain proper documents regarding patient status and ventilator parameters. Administer the prescribed drugs as per the doctor's advice. Prepare the patient for plasmapheresis if done. Then to prevent aspiration, you have to monitor effectiveness of gag reflex, avoid flexion of the neck if patient is comatose, administer feedings through nasogastric tube, confirm tube placement at least every 8 hours and before and after each feeding, tap nasogastric tube securely. Give adhesive tape to for a nasogastric tube to remain secured in place. Then administer small frequent feedings. Then to avoid aspiration. Then elevate head of bed 30 to 40 degrees during administration of tube feeding. Then managing immobility, limb weakness makes the patient's ability to free movement. So inspect skin and joints every shift, provide skin care, and attend also if there is pressure sores. Prevent the patient from pressure sore by giving air mattress or water mattress. Reposition the patient every 2 hours. Provide range of motion exercises. Support feet for to prevent foot drop by giving sandbag or any hardboard. Then encourage patient Then encourage patient participation in all activities, care, dressing, bathing, oral care, and toileting, etc. Then manage the nutrition part of the patient. So assess for difficulty with chewing, swallowing, and potential for aspiration. Administer medications 30 minutes before feeding to maximize muscle strength needed for chewing and swallowing. Offer soft food diet. Offer soft food diet frequently. Stay with patient while taking meals. Allow sufficient time to chew and swallow. Provide high protein diet containing high amount of roughage. Avoid excess calorie intake. Food high in sugar and salt. Give fluids in sufficient amount. Then supplemental calcium, vitamin D, and medicine to be given. Then you have to maintain intake output chart, maintain the weight record of the patient. So, to enhance the communication between the patient and you have to develop appropriate method of communication. As I said, you have to give paper, pencil, or slate, chalk. Then listen to the patient attentively. Instruct to talk in slow and unhurried manner so that the words may be comprehensible. And referral maybe for speech therapy, you have to allow the patient to attend the speech therapy sessions. Continue to use sense of touch and other non-verbal forms of communication. Then to prevent infection, as I said, monitor the vital signs every 4 hourly. Auscultate chest every shift. Administer appropriate antibiotics. Catheter care should be given. Monitor IV insertion site for infection. Then protect the eyes from the irritation by proper padding. So this is all about how we'll take care of the patient with myasthenia gravis. Since there is muscle weakness, there will be cornea may be affected. So that is why moist padding is needed on the eye. So this is all about the topics we covered regarding head injury, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and myasthenia gravis. I think tomorrow I'll join with you with the other speakers and those who have received this practical book. Anybody who has received can send me the last page. I mean, picture photo of that last page in the group so that I'll explain what you need to do in the self activities tomorrow.
नो मैम, नो स्टडी मटेरियल हम लोगों को मिला है.
Anybody who has received the study material, the practical record, can send me the photo of that last page. Self activities it is written. So those who have received can send me in the group. Some of you have received. I'll write in the group if anybody has received. Will send me the last page photograph of that last page. Okay. So we'll end the session now. Thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, ma'am,
Ma'am is not there.
তাহলে আমাদের ডিসকাশনটা হবে কি করে?
আমি জানি না আজকে যে কি ক্লাস করেছে ভগবান জানে শুধু।
ম্যামকে তো ওটা বলতে হতো যে প্র্যাকটিক্যাল ক্লাসটা হবে কবে, কালকে তো লাস্ট।
ম্যামের আজকে মুড নেই পড়ানোর, সেটা দেখেই বোঝা গেছে।
গ্রুপে কে একটা লিখে দিল ওটা, যে ম্যাম শুধু রিড আউট করছে।
ঠিকই করেছে।
আরে ওটা গ্রুপে বলা ঠিক হয়েছে থরি?
আরে ও বোধহয় জানে না, বুঝলি, ওকে বল। ম্যাম আছে বলে জানে না হয়।
গাধা, মানে কি, ভগবান জানে। কিন্তু আমাদের প্র্যাকটিক্যাল ফাইনাল এক্সামটা কখন হবে আমাকে সেইটা কেউ জানালে ভালো হয়। আমি বলবো, জিজ্ঞেস করবো, ম্যাম ফুটুস করে চলে গেল।